بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Tadhkirat Muttaqin. We are studying the part about different types of people who are deceived and they may not be aware. So we already have talked about some groups. The next group is some preachers, some wa'az, who talk and preach people about virtues, about good behavior, good akhlaq, and warn people about vicious traits of character, but they themselves suffer vicious traits of character. And he says they may think that just to talk about these things and be able to give lectures or talks or write about these subjects would include them among salikin ilallah. So if I talk about akhlaq, about spirituality, about nearness to Allah, this would not make me a wayfarer. Such people are not aware, or maybe they know theoretically but not practically taking their knowledge into account, that on the day of judgment such people are very much regretting why they didn't practice. Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun kabura maqtan inda Allah an taqulu ma la taf'alun. O those who believe, why you say things that you don't practice? So if someone is preaching, if someone is advising people, must be very careful that he himself or she herself would also act upon that. He mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may say to such people that first preach yourself, إِذْ نَفْسَكَ ثُمَّ إِذِ النَّاسِ. First you must preach yourself, then preach people. Otherwise, فَاسْتَحْيِ مِنْ. You should feel embarrassed to preach people. Or like for example, it has been said that someone who had written a book, that if you are not acting upon it, then you have filled the world with nifaq, with kufr. The more your book is spread, the more this nifaq reaches out, if someone has not acted upon what he has written. Also, he says some people are also very much able to use eloquent words and be very much using literal linguistic, techniques, but this would not help if you yourself don't act upon what say. Maybe you say something very beautiful, maybe you can make poems, about it, but you have to be yourself believing in what you say. He also talks about people that sometimes mention some shubahat, some objections, or some questions about difficult issues, and then they are not able themselves to handle these issues. They are not able to clarify these issues for people, and they are just confusing people or raising doubts among people, and this is a very dangerous path. Another group are the people that they have been very careful about their akhlaq. They have done tahzeeb akhlaq wa tasfiyeh nafs. They have tried to purify their nafs, and they made some success. Then they started preaching people, and people started following them. But they were not careful that shaitan at any stage can come, unless you become mukhlas. If you are mukhlas, yes, you are safe. But before that, even if for years you have been successful, you must not underestimate the danger of shaitan getting involved. So little by little, shaitan can get into these people, especially now that they are more popular, they have more following, more influence, people trust them. So those beautiful stages of self-purification in the past, now little by little would go away. If you are on the right path, you will never feel safe about shaitan. He says, it is said that one of the great people, he doesn't mention whom, was very close to his death. Maybe just one breath, yek nafas, just one breath. Shaitan appeared to him and said, do you feel safe from my plots? He said no. So he was just one breath away from death, but he said, I don't feel safe with respect to you. Some people may think, you find among some Sufis and maybe even non-Sufis also, that they think they have managed to distance themselves from dunya and renunciate from dunya, and then if they do something wrong, it's not going to affect them. If they don't do all the wajibat, or they don't avoid some of the haram, for example, may not affect them. So this is a problem. We should observe Sharia all the time. Rasulullah, Ahlul Bayt, they were observing more than ordinary people. Some people also, he says, they think Irfan is just to pretend to be Arif and to act like Urafa. So, for example, if Urafa have, some kind of clothes that are very simple and, very, ordinary, they try to dress like them, or the way they speak, they try to lower their tone, speak very slowly, sometimes do things like as if they are crying. And he says this is also a problem, that some people are deceived and they are deceiving themselves, that they think this is going to help, this is going to make them like Urafa. He says sometimes they mention some azkar, some poems, and they think this would take them to some maqam, to some position. But no, it's not going to take them to any high position, and indeed is one of the causes of Allah's anger on them. Some people have made big mistakes and they suffer great confusion and illusion because they have thought that they have reached qayat ma'rifat wa yaqeen, ultimate degrees of ma'rifah and yaqeen, certainty and knowledge. They think they have reached the level of muqarrabeen. They think they are doing shuhud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have reached the maqam mahmud, etc. And they think they are in malakut. They have such high opinion about themselves, and unfortunately they claim also sometimes, or maybe even shaitan may deceive them, that they have khawariqul adat, extraordinary acts. Sometimes they claim things that even prophets and awliya Allah have not claimed. So these people are people that they have such high opinion about themselves because of their ignorance and arrogance. And the reason, or one of the reasons they think like this, is because, for example, they have undertaken some riyazat, some exercises, some disciplines which are very difficult, which are many times not religious. So because of those things, they have gained some spiritual power. They have gained some extraordinary, maybe sometimes power. But this doesn't mean that they have become spiritual, they have become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are confused, they are deceived. He says, ظَنًّا مِّنْهُمُ الْوُصُولَ إِلَى اللَّهِ جَلَّ جَلَالُهُ. They have thought that they have reached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because, for example, they are able to read minds of people, for example, or know about things which are happening in other places, for example. He says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 70 hijab of nur. Inna lillahi ta'ala sab'ina hijaban min an-nur. 70 veils of light. Even 70 might be used as kathra, doesn't mean 69 plus 1. Sometimes 7 and 70 in Arabic means kathra. So it might be more. So there are 70 veils of light. When the wayfarer reaches one of these, he may think يظن أنه لا مجال للتعدي عنها. May think this is the end of it. There is no way to go further. But you have to go further. Maybe he says in the story of Prophet Ibrahim that when he saw a star and moon and sun, and then they were setting and said, أني لا أحب الآفلين. So maybe this means that you should not be thinking that this degree of light is the end of a story. Then there is another degree, there is another degree. And he says Prophet Ibrahim maybe was not, thinking about physical lights and physical star and moon and the sun. So heart itself is a hijab. And he says when heart gets some light and it's illuminated, then the person should be able to not see as the last stage and should not be stuck here. Don't worship yourself and your heart at this stage, in my words, of course. So he says in dua we have qalbi mahjoob wa aqli ma'yoob. So this can be even for someone that has reached some level of light in his heart, but still must know that this light is hijab nuri, is a hijab from light. Because this light, if it stops you and makes you busy with itself, it would become hijab for higher light. If you use it to go further, then this hijab is going away. You can penetrate. But if you are busy with it and remain there, this is hijab. He is very critical of people, for example, who may say ana al-haq or laysa fi jubbati siballah or inni ka'bah. Some Sufis, some people who were in the path of spirituality, they said ana al-haq, I am the truth, or in my cloak, in my dress, there is no one other than Allah, or I am Kaaba and you should do tawaf around me. Not, of course, meaning as a person. They wanted to say that I have reached the level of wahdat al-wujud and I only see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are called shatahiyat. But we don't have such things in Ahlul Bayt and through ulama of Ahlul Bayt, because even if you reach really that state of fana fillah, then you should not say ana al-haq. You are supposed not to be ana anymore. You are supposed not to think of you and your clothes anymore. So, of course, maybe these people had difficulty in finding words. Maybe they were not experienced. Maybe they were overwhelmed. Don't want to say bad things about them, but for sure, this is not the best way of dealing with these things, even if they were really in a very high position. Sometimes, of course, some people just copy these things. And if after this they remain here and they don't manage to go beyond, then they would remain with these hijabs forever. He also talks about how some Nasara made mistake about Isa alayhi salam and thinking of him as Ibnullah, for example. He says Kayfakan means in any case there is need for talking more about this, because these are some of the things that may happen even to wayfarers who are honest. They want to be getting close to Allah but are not experienced, are not careful. They don't know the risks, the challenges. They don't have good ustad to take benefit from. So they may make mistakes. They may sometimes fall. So there is need to discuss about these things here. But he says this is not my job, although the more is needed, but he says بیان بیش از این شغل مصنف نیست من وجوه. He says because of different reasons I cannot do more than this. لکن استاد حقیر رضوان الله علیه به اصحاب خودشان همیشه می‌فرمودند برای کسی هیچ وقت اشتباه نشود، ممکن واجب نخواهد شد. He says my teacher, perhaps he refers to Akhund Mullah Hussein Quli Hamedani, used to say to his companions, to his followers always that never what is maybe what this is what he meant, his teacher. I don't want to say definitely, but he says برای کسی هیچ وقت اشتباه نشود، ممکن واجب نخواهد شد. So maybe he meant that his teacher used to say that what is possible should not be thought, that then is not, becoming wajib. ممکن واجب نخواهد شد. Something which is, perhaps, I am not sure, but perhaps he meant that what is possible, you should not think that you should not do it, and thinking that because what is wajib is more, I cannot do it, and what is possible for me is less than wajib, so I should not do it. Maybe he meant this, it's not very clear for me. Maybe this is what we have in our hadith and teachings, that we call it qa'idatul maysur, that what is possible, you should do it. Al-maysuru la yasqutu bil-ma'sur, or ma la yudrak kulluh la yutrak kulluh. So if I cannot do 100% of the job, but I can do 50%, I should do it. I cannot help all people, I should do as much as I can. I cannot mention more than this here, but this much that I can, I explained. Maybe this is what he meant. Wallahul Hadi, Allah is the guide, and from what we have said, although was not enough, inshallah, it is understood what is needed. And al-mukhlisun fi khatarin azim, those who are mukhlis, they have great value and also great risks. Khatar in Arabic means value, significance. In Dua Abu Hamza says wama ana wama khatari, and sometimes it is used in the sense of danger and risk. So mukhlisun are great in value, but also face great challenges and risks. They have to be careful. And then finally he says, Bedan ey baradar man, my brother, be aware that لن تخرج من ظلمات الغرور والتمني إلا بالتضرع التام وبصدق الإنابة إلى الله. You cannot go out of darknesses towards light. But which darknesses? Darknesses of ghurur, deception, وَالتَّمَنِّي, wishing unrealistic things, desires which are not realistic. So you cannot get rid of these darknesses except with at-tadarru'u tam, with complete reliance on Allah and appealing to Him and calling upon Him for help, وَصِدْقِ الْإِنَابَةِ, and truly returning to Him, وَالْإِخْبَاطِ لَهُ, to be humble before Allah, وَمَعْرِفَةِ عُيُوبِ نَفْسِكَ, and try to understand your own shortcomings, your own faults. من حيث لا يوافق العلم والعقل. Anything in you that would not be compatible with knowledge and aql. Anything that لا يحمله الدين والشريعة وسنن القدوة أئمة الهدى. Anything which is not compatible with the religion, with the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and examples of them, you should try to understand and then try to remove. And then he signs Muhammadul Bahari al-Hamadani. So in this way, alhamdulillah, we finished this part of the book. And then we have some dasturul amal, some instructions for some people. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل